Hi, I'm Alison from Alison's Astrology, and I'm here to talk to you this week about the week that begins the 8th of December and finishes on Saturday the 14th. And before we start, I just want to give you a heads up that next week I'm going to be posting a video about the astrology of Taylor Swift. I've done a lot of research on her, and I wrote an article for Stella, the Astrological Association magazine. And, she has a really awesome chart, actually, really interesting. So I'll be posting that either on or around her birthday, which is December 13th. So whether you love her or hate her, you might want to look out for that, because really you can't help but admire her success. So yeah, so that's great. And we're starting the week coming out of a host of planetary activity, actually. Mars turned retrograde on Friday, and that might have left us with sort of energy issues, especially if we've got planets or angles in Aries or Scorpio. And maybe some uncertainty as well about where we're headed. Maybe even some confidence issues, because Mars is about that, really. And then the Sun on Saturday weathered an opposition to Jupiter. And we, again, might have been feeling a little bit of lacking in faith in ourselves. Jupiter is about faith. Or we might have actually been feeling overly confident if we kind of went over into the Jupiter side of that opposition and, we're feeling like really good about ourselves. Either way, there was a balance there that we needed to make. So that was interesting. And hopefully we managed to navigate that and come out of it okay. The most important thing maybe was that Venus entered Aquarius too and went straight into a deep dive with Pluto. So Pluto is the lord of the underworld, Hades, and he represents power struggles and transformation in astrology, so big, deep change. And it makes us think a little bit about Persephone as well and her abduction. I don't know if you know that tale, but, I think I've mentioned it before, or you might want to look it up. She was abducted by Pluto and sort of taken down into Pluto's realm. And her mother, Demeter, completely stopped all the plants from growing. And only when negotiations were in place and Persephone was allowed to return for 6 months of the year did she allow the growth to go ahead again, and food to be grown essentially for 6 months of the year at least. So we're getting close to that moment now with the winter solstice, actually, when we're just down at the bottom of that period, when the sun's right at the zenith of the chart. No, not the zenith, the nadir, sorry, zenith is the top point. Anyway, so that could have meant for us power struggles in relationships, or maybe we were just thinking about our allegiance to our groups, because it's Venus in Aquarius after all, and whether we belong. We might have been thinking about, our friends and which ones were kind of really on our side. So all those questions, and we're coming out of that now. And Venus is now finding herself between Mars and Pluto. So between this sort of driving energy and this transformational change. And she's what's called in traditional astrology besieged between, these two sort of powerful, and in traditional astrology, malefic energies. So you might see her as a damsel trapped in a tower, maybe, with arrows being shot at her from Mars and Pluto below, and she's kind of thinking about how to kind of escape from the tower, essentially, how to deal with this challenge. And the Mars-Pluto opposition in particular is across the Leo-Aquarius axis. And Leo and Aquarius are about identity, because Leo is about us. It's about who we are. It's ruled by the sun, our solar energy, our core energy. And it's who we are right at our very center. And then it's opposed by Aquarius, which represents society, groups, friendships, who we are within a wider group of people, in fact, who we are as human beings even. So Leo wants to lead and be the one, in a sense, while Venus wants to be one of the gang, wants to be contributing to the group. Venus in Aquarius, sorry. So we've got this Mars-Venus opposition here. And maybe it represents our desire to be sociable and be part of the group on the one hand, whilst on the other hand, we've got this need to hang on to who we are within the group and to be recognized. Leo really wants to be seen. Look, it's me, here I am. And Venus or the other people are saying, okay, that's fine. But what are you contributing here? You know, what are you bringing to this group? You have to bring to the group without wanting to be in charge of it, in a sense. And Mars, obviously, in Leo finds that quite difficult. So this could lead to kind of arguments. It could lead to arguments in relationships if you've got that kind of polarity in relationships as well. With somebody just being a little bit more chilled and egalitarian and someone always wanting to be in charge, that polarity could be playing out right now. Especially actually if you've got planets or angles around the fixed signs, 5 degrees of the fixed signs, that's Taurus, Leo, Scorpio and Aquarius. So all those are going to be affected by this opposition between Venus and Mars. And in the end, it's about finding balance, actually, finding balance between the two. You know, Mars in Leo is warm, it's got passion, and it's good at making decisions and taking the lead. And Venus is really good at being detached and objective and thinking things through and idealistic. So in the end, we need both of those qualities in the group. And it's about finding balance. And you need both of those qualities in life. So who am I and who am I in this situation? There we are. And Mars might end up taking the lead, but then it happens for the sake of the group that they're in, not just because it benefits, you know, it benefits the person themselves. Anyway, once Venus escapes from the opposition with Mars, which culminates at 10:30 on Thursday the 12th of December, she begins to come into a lovely flowing trine with Jupiter in Gemini. So Jupiter in Gemini is retrograde, so being more quietly sociable than usual. Well, maybe that's not such a bad thing because Jupiter in Gemini can be really, you know, a bit of a whirlwind, expanding in every direction with the chat and the information. So a little bit more reflective. But this is giving us this really lovely aspect, which is sociable and friendly. And it's not about deep diving and navel searching, you know, like the Venus-Pluto was. Who am I really? You know, what's going on here? Do I really want to be in this situation? No, this just wants to chat and to circulate and to make friends with everyone and to find out about everyone and everything as well. You know, there's a quest for information with Jupiter in Gemini. And that's going to be helped by Venus, who's like saying, well, how does this apply to my friendship group? How can I apply this to all my ideals and my, you know, my great thoughts I'm having? So air signs, you know, Libra, Aquarius, and Gemini too are very sociable. They usually know everyone and they're great fun to be with. So this lovely trine between Venus and Jupiter is bringing us great vibes really for this festive season. But more importantly, maybe it's also a generous combination and about sharing. Venus in Aquarius doesn't hold back, but she brings what she has to the group. And she values the group. And this feels like a time to be around people, you know, to be with friends, but also maybe to contribute through volunteer work, perhaps, or just through spending time with somebody who needs company. You know, you can be generous with yourself, I think, with this trine. You don't need to have money to give to somebody. And relationships in general now should have moved on to a much more kind of positive and optimistic footing, even if that's only superficial and it's going to take another deep dive later. You know, this is a positive time. And the aspect comes together on the 19th at 14 degrees of Gemini and Aquarius. So if you've got planets or angles around there, or in fact in Libra as well, which completes the trine, you might find you get some good news, or maybe you're just simply having a great time. So join me next week for some really momentous astrology, actually, with a full moon in Gemini, and Mercury turning direct again. And then at the end of next week, we get the winter solstice. So that's always good to look forward to. And it's as a kind of starting moment, you know, the starting point of the winter. So it's good to have a look at that chart and see how we get on, see what that's going to bring for the next few months. Okay, so I look forward to meeting you then, and yeah, have a good week.